Not long ago, I talked about how the European Union is all ideology and absolutely no logic and substance. It's exactly what socialists and communists crave, a big, bloated, corrupt organization that controls everything and is responsible for nothing. In that video, I showed you how the European Union attacked a new Hungarian law that prevented children from being indoctrinated by the LGBT community, something that seems logical to anyone with a conscience or just a little bit of intelligence, because children are supposed to be protected by adults from any ideology until they can make their own decisions. But this is not what the Eurocrats in the European Union want. They do want children being indoctrinated as long as it is done by those that follow the same ideology they like. I even made a comparison of the reactions from the European Union between the new Hungarian law and the fact that the socialist government legalized censorship in Portugal. In one case, with the new Hungarian law, the European Union reacted as if the world was ending. In the other case, socialists legalizing censorship in Portugal, the European Union made absolutely no comment. For those that understand what the European Union really is, this is not a big surprise. The European Union is the socialist and communist wet dream, so of course they will not even say a word against censorship imposed by socialists. Everyone that is not a socialist, however, and tries to apply anything that can be interpreted as censorship will be attacked by the European Union. Hungary has been attacked by the European Union on other occasions. The most famous one was related with the open border policy that the criminal Angela Merkel tried to force on all member states. Hungary refused to do so, and while Europeans in Germany, Sweden, Spain, France, United Kingdom, Austria, Netherlands, and other countries were being beaten, raped, and murdered by refugees, Hungary was perfectly safe because it dared to actually have border control and do checks on those that tried to enter their country illegally. Hungary even built a fence around their border with other countries, which obviously helped stop the hordes of invaders. Imagine that, such radical behavior from the Hungarian government to protect the people of Hungary that elected them. Another country that did the same as Hungary was Poland. They also did not follow the open border decree from Angela Merkel and thus did not suffer with the increase in crime, namely rapes and murder. This decision made Poland a target to the dictatorship information that is the European Union, and recently Poland became an even bigger target than Hungary itself. But before I go into the details of why Poland became a bigger target, I need to remind you of some details about the European Union. For as long as it exists, the Eurocrats in the European Union want one single thing: power over the member states. They don't want people in each member state voting to decide what they want in their own countries. Eurocrats want to decide for every member state whatever they want, and no people can put that decision up for a vote. In fact, they went as far as ignoring the votes in the referendum in France and the Netherlands concerning the European Constitution. Both countries voted against that European Constitution, but the Eurocrats still implemented it anyway, and it is now known as the Lisbon Treaty. And in this European Constitution, you'll find that the Eurocrats want to supersede the laws and constitutions of each member state. This means that European laws are above the laws of your country. This also means that you are subject to laws made by people that you did not elect and that know nothing about your country. And this is a power grab that some countries have a big problem in accepting. Poland, for example, was devastated by the socialists and communists not too long ago, and even today they live with those ghosts from that past, and they really don't want to go back to those horrible times. Basically, a few decades ago, Poland was being told by socialists and communists what they could or could not do in their country. Today, Poland is being told by the socialists and communists in the European Union what they can or cannot do in their own country. So what happened recently that triggered yet another attack against Poland from the European Union? Basically, the Polish government proceeded with a reform of their justice system, as is their duty after being elected by the Polish people. However, the European Court of Justice wants to interfere in that reform by claiming this reform is making sure that the judiciary in Poland is being politicized. Which is quite funny and ironic because the European Court of Justice is as politicized as any court can be, since it's up to the governments of each member state to nominate and then appoint the judges to this court. It's the same process for the European Prosecutor's Office that I've talked about before. Basically, the nominee from Portugal for the Prosecutor's Office was not the most qualified, but the European Union couldn't care less about that and accepted that nominee without issues, despite the fact it was warned about the lies the Portuguese government told about this person's curriculum. In effect, the European Prosecutor's Office has at least one nominee, the Portuguese nominee, that is nothing more than an emissary from the Portuguese Socialist Party. He's not there to do a proper job, he's there to do what the socialists want and get a very high salary at the expense of the European citizens. And the same thing happens with the judges in the European Court of Justice, that get absurdly high salaries to essentially agree with everything that the European Commission wants, or at least agree with everything that really matters for the European Commission. The Polish justice system did not agree with the European Court of Justice and said that Polish laws are above European law. And as you can imagine, the European Union immediately attacked Poland after this. They even sued Poland in the European Court of Justice, which obviously agreed with the European Commission, and fined Poland with more than 1 million euros every day until they revert the reform in the Polish justice system. This has been happening for at least 2 or 3 decades in Europe. The European Union expands its tentacles and removes sovereignty from its member states, and those member states either accept it or are fined until they accept it. One can argue that Poland can leave the EU if it wants to, but that's not an easy solution, as we've seen with Brexit. Despite the propaganda from the European Union that it was the United Kingdom that was taking too long to leave, the fact was that the European Union did everything it could to stop Brexit from happening. In fact, Guy Verhofstadt from the European Parliament participated in the anti-Brexit campaign in the United Kingdom for an anti-Brexit party, the Lib Dems. This was one of the clearest examples of a foreign agent interfering in the elections of another country. Guy Verhofstadt defended himself by saying that it wasn't interference because the UK did not leave the European Union yet. And this is actually yet another argument for those that are so critical of the European Union, because these Eurocrats like Guy Verhofstadt think they can do whatever they want in any member state and no one can do anything about it. They must accept whatever they do, even interference in their own elections. And that's exactly what has triggered the Polish government to defy and ignore the decisions of the European Court of Justice and the fine of over 1 million euros every day, because Poland knows very well what it means to be pushed around by socialists and communists in the past, and they don't want to repeat the process. And as far as I'm concerned, I support Poland in their decision. More countries should stand up and defy the Eurocrats because they are nothing more than dictators in a suit. They literally want to dictate what happens in every member state without being elected by the people of those member states, and that is of course a dictatorship, not a democracy. If the European Union continues this authoritarian path, more countries will start standing up against it, and some may even leave the Union. I certainly hope that this is just another step towards the end of the European Union. If not the end, at least a return to what it was initially, just a trade agreement between countries, and that's all it needs to be. I hope you like this, and I'll see you next time.